Rise from your grave.
Forget your Xboxes and your PlayStation. For me, the ultimate console war will always be between Sega and Nintendo, and it still begs the question, which is better, the Super Nintendo or the Genesis? Well, I'm not here to take a side. Instead, I'm here to look at something else. You see, during this time, Sega and Nintendo were always trying to innovate something new to be one step ahead of the other. Nintendo was at one point in talks with Sony in creating a CD add-on for the Super Nintendo. But that fell by the wayside, and instead, Nintendo agreed to license their properties for games for the Philips CDI. If you don't already know, these games suck. Meanwhile, Sega just said, nah, forget it, and came out with the Sega CD and 32X. Neither of these add-ons did entirely well, and thus both companies began to look forward to the future for their next systems. While making all these add-ons though, Nintendo and Sega both released different revisions of their consoles as well. Nintendo only released one redesign in the late 90s in North America and left it at that, while Sega released not one, not two, not three, but 4 different Genesises. I don't know. The Genesis 2 and 3 are simply smaller versions of the Sega Genesis, while the Sega CDX was a CD player Genesis and Sega CD all in one. But what we're here for today is none other than the SEGA Nomad. The SEGA Nomad is literally a portable Sega Genesis, and it's huge. Seriously, let's do some size comparisons here. Here it stacks up to a PSP, a 3DS, an iPod Touch, and a fork. Just look at this monster. The shape makes it look like some kind of art student's attempt to convey a message about handheld gaming or something, but no, there really is a Genesis crammed into this thing. So, how well does it work, you ask? Well, as I've shown you, the Nomad is pretty hefty. While it works well for my hands, I get the feeling that a big chunk of the demographic this thing is intended for would be sorely left out because of its size. The buttons and D-pad respond well, although the D-pad feels a little mushy, and in case you don't follow me, think of the Xbox 360 controller's D-pad, only not quite that bad. It certainly works, but it's different from your normal Genesis pad. The Nomad does include 6 buttons instead of the Genesis's original 3, and the mode button, so games like Mortal Kombat and Zombies Ate My Neighbors can be played on the Nomad as well. The Nomad's kind of on the heavy side too, sporting 6 AA batteries just to function. And you'd better bring more with you because this thing has an atrocious battery life. Weighing in at barely 30 minutes to an hour, the Nomad just seems impractical if you're seriously considering taking it outside of your home. The Nomad does serve as an actual Genesis, however. The neat thing is that there are power and AV inputs at the top, which allow you to hook up your Nomad to the big screen. There's even a second controller port at the bottom, just in case you were willing to get a few rounds of Sonic 2 in with a friend. Good job, fellas. The Nomad's own screen, however, is okay at best. There is a dial to adjust the brightness, however there isn't quite a setting that makes it look 100% perfect, but it gets the job done well enough to play games. It is backlit, however, something that Nintendo didn't include in their handhelds for quite some time. The sound comes from one little speaker on the bottom front, and it's surprisingly loud, but again, not perfect. It functions well enough to hear your games, but it's also what you'd expect from 1995. Playing something on the Nomad is pretty awesome, honestly. The thought of having a portable Genesis is really alluring, but the problem resides largely in the battery life. Still, it does have a whole library of games before it, with somewhere in the ballpark of 700 to choose from. I can't say if the 32X works on the Nomad or not, but my guess is no, and I really wouldn't see much reason to use it anyway. There's still a market for portable consoles today, with systems like the Superboy still getting released. And the Nomad is definitely a neat collector's item to have, assuming you're going for the ultimate Sega collection or you're just interested in handhelds. But outside of the novelty, the Nomad really isn't the solution for playing Genesis games on the go, unless you don't mind changing batteries every hour or less.